Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ryan Homan, founder of Sales Recruiting University. Really excited to hang out with you today. Today, we're going to do a long form training and masterclass, sales leadership recruiting masterclass, how to recruit the perfect sales leader to manage and grow your sales team. Now, obviously, that's all something that we want. Whether you have a leader today in your decent sized business and you have a leader and you're looking to scale, well, eventually you're going to need future leaders. Or if you're like a lot of our clients where you have no leader, you're trying to get the sales team off the ground, you're an owner, you're like, man, if I could wish anything, I'd have the perfect sales leader on our team that could, recruit, manage, onboard, train, lead, and grow the sales team, right? That's the ideal position. Today, we're going to talk about how to recruit the perfect sales leader to manage and grow your sales team. So I got my notes over here. That's why I'll be peeking over here. And I think you guys are going to get a ton of value from the training today. By the way, if you have any questions that come up as you watch this video, or if you have any ideas on things that we should be doing online, like videos like this, drop them in the comment section because we want to continue to provide a ton of value for you. That's why our social media accounts exist, YouTube, the podcast channel, Instagram, all that stuff, so you guys can get amazing content. So we're going to talk about 4 topics today. So make sure that you're writing notes, by the way, because we're going to go through a lot. Some of you may be familiar with some of these strategies and processes. For some of you who maybe haven't really built your sales team before, it's going to be new, maybe a little bit overwhelming, but this is really what it looks like to truly get the sales team off the ground with a good leader. So 4 things that we're going to talk about today. Creating your future leadership structure, so your leadership org chart. We're going to talk through that because you need to know where you're going and you need to know how to present those things in the recruiting and in your management process to actually fill that position. That'll make more sense here in a second. We're going to talk about the realities of hiring outside sales leadership, which is really difficult. If you're going to do it, some of the things that you need to put in place in your hiring process to ensure that you're hiring the right person. And then also, maybe some better strategies like advancing reps into leadership, which is what we prefer. That's going to be a big point of the training, by the way. The third thing we're going to talk about is the for sure way to hire the right leader, which, just so you know right now, is going to be the systematic way to advance a sales rep into a sales leadership position. It's a 4-step process. That process is gold. You're going to get a ton of value from it because it ensures that you put the perfect person in that seat. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a few topics in terms of retaining your leader. Just because you finally have the good leader over this 3 minimum and probably up to 6-month process as you get the team off the ground, just because you have the leader, it doesn't mean they're going to stay with you forever. But what you want to do, obviously, is you want them to. When you have the perfect person who aligns with your mission, vision, values, they know how to sell what you sell. They love what you do. They know how to coach the reps to do better. They know your recruiting process, your onboarding process, training. They can independently grow the sales team without you. Obviously, that's an amazing place to be as a business owner. And you want to do everything that you can to not lose that person. So we're going to talk about that at the end, and I'm really excited. Quick overview of my background. If you don't know who I am, I've been doing this for about a decade. I've helped 1,000 small businesses. I have a 60+ person company myself. That's Sales Recruiting University. Our sales team today is 14 people. The rest of the staff is, new client onboarding, and then roughly 40 people on the recruiting human resources side. So we're a recruiting service company. We help commission-based sales teams recruit. So we offer recruiting services, and then we also build out clients' new hire training processes so the onboarding process is much easier. So this is all we've done. We've done it for 1,000 small businesses more. In the last 12 months, our service has recruited over 15,000 commission-based sales reps. We know what we're doing, and we're doing this every single month, as well as learning, what it's like to build our own internal sales team. So I think you're going to get a ton of value, regardless if you're a small, medium, or even large-sized business, although we typically help small businesses. So a couple things that you need to understand first, these are really important, is none of this is going to be necessarily easy. Okay, so although this training is going to be awesome and you're going to be like, man, that was gold, and now I know exactly what I need to do to find the perfect leader, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to flip on a switch and everything's going to be easy peasy, okay? So commitment is key to this process. I like to relate entrepreneurship sometimes, specifically to our clients and in videos sometimes like this, to kind of the sales reps that we hire. So what I mean by that is you may have been on a sales team before. If maybe you're a small business owner who doesn't have a sales team, or maybe you even had some hiring experience in the past and you've hired reps into a specific position and they said, yes, this is who I am. I'm a hard worker. I want to make 6 figures, or whatever their claims were. And then they came on board, you trained them up, or maybe your training isn't that good. But anyways, they came on board and they ended up not being the person that they said that they were going to be. They didn't show up with a good attitude. They were flaky. They didn't do the work. They didn't end up making the money. And then then they fell off for whatever reason, right? Maybe it was company related or maybe it was them related, but what they did and what I'm trying to communicate now is that they've made specific claims, which everybody wants, right? Every rep wants to make hypothetically 6 figures. Everybody wants to think that they're a hard worker, but the truth is the reason the 20-80 rule exists is because only 20% of the people on the freaking planet are actually willing to do the work necessary for success. After working with lots of small businesses and literally having tens of thousands of people come through our sales pipeline, and communicating with small businesses over the phone, both myself and our sales team, entrepreneurs have big claims, big desires, but most of them are not willing to do the work necessary to get there, which means they end up staying small forever, like the majority of small businesses that end up failing over a 5 to 10 year period of time, because they're not willing to push through the process of building a real company. And it's just difficult. It's the reality. So you don't want to be like this, the lazy sales rep that I'm talking about, who makes claims and then doesn't follow up with their claims. You want to be like the rep who says, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to be, this is what I want to accomplish, and then they follow through with those things, right? So, the reason I mention this now is because although I'm going to give you the exact process today, you need to commit and hustle through this process so you can actually get the end result. And I'm telling you, once you get the perfect leader in place that can manage all the responsibilities of growing the sales team without you, man, it is an amazing place to be. It totally blesses your anxiety and stress within your business because you're not worried about the money aspect of the company, and that thing can just grow independently without you, okay? If you want to actually build the dream team, then you got to do the work, you got to go through the pain, is what I'm talking about. So again, this is not an easy process, although if you follow this process in terms of getting the perfect leader, right? That's the end goal of the training, is to understand who's the perfect leader, right? Although it's not an easy process per se, because of the clarity and the process and doing it the right way the first time, all I'm doing here is I'm making it 5 times easier for you. Although in general, it's still a difficult thing that you need to kind of work through. And once you crack the leadership problem, which means if you don't have a leader today, or if you have a poor leader today, and then you finally go through this process and place the right leader, once you crack that, okay, you will not be worried about the revenue aspect of your business, right? When you can wake up as an entrepreneur, a business owner, and I have a leader that I can depend on, that knows our recruiting process, our onboarding process, our training, our management process, the reps like working with them, he knows how to, or she knows how to coach them into better success. Our revenue is consistently increasing month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year. When you can wake up and not worry about the money aspect, the revenue aspect of your business, it is a completely different place to be as an entrepreneur. And so once you crack the leadership problem, you're going to solve that issue. And wouldn't that be an amazing thing, as if you could just know that the money aspect of your business is no longer an issue, which, by the way, is like the most important aspect of in business. A lot of people will be like, having a good product or taking care of your customers or whatever it is the most important thing. But really, it's making money, because the business doesn't even exist without money. You accomplishing your goals, your mission, vision, values, if you have those things in place within your business, those things are not going to happen unless revenue is coming into the company. Another thing that'll happen once you crack the leadership problem is you'll be able to face any challenges because you know how to predictably scale up your sales team. If you have a good leader, right? If you have a challenge, hypothetically, let's say that you have 6 reps, okay? And these are normal things that can happen. You have 6 reps, you have your perfect leader, okay? And then, out of these 6 reps, 2 of the reps are like top performers and the other 4 are like decent. Those other 2 reps hypothetically produce 50% or more of the sales team's revenue. Well, let's say hypothetically those people are buddies and all of a sudden they get recruited to another company for whatever reason. Well, maybe 50% of your revenue is gone, right? Overnight. That is a big issue. These are normal things that can happen in business. And if you don't have a leader next to you side by side, or ride or die, that can help you recruit instantly and create revenue instantly because of the nature of your recruiting, onboarding, training, and management process, then you're in a difficult place. And so when you have the leader, you can go through difficult challenges, whatever it may be. Now, this kind of exists in every department, but obviously we're talking about the sales department. If you have issues from a retention perspective, if you lose good people or whatever it is, and you have a sales leader full-time dedicated to recruiting, onboarding, training, and management, then you can solve big issues really quickly, which is important, right? If you're growing a business, as an example, we're at 62 people, I think now. When I had 15 people years ago, our costs were exponentially lower. When we have a bad sales month, right, it's more painful than it used to be when we were small, because maybe our profitability isn't as good today, our costs are much higher. And so those are the natural things that can happen in business as you're growing. And the better that you are at recruiting, training, onboarding, and management, and the more time that you can invest into that, which obviously means if you have a full-time leader, you're going to invest more into that, the better that you're going to be able to solve challenges like that. Hopefully that makes sense. Another thing is you'll be able to build your dream team. That's what you want, right? If you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, which the majority of you are, and this is even applicable to sales leaders, all of the stuff that we'll talk about today, you know, you have a desire to build the dream team, right? You want every department to have processes, a good leader. You want those things independently operating without you so you can focus on the things that you want to focus on. So as an example, you know, for myself, I get to improve our product. I get to do stuff like this. And those two things are the majority of my job because we have good leaders in place, good sales team, good teams in every department, and everything's kind of taken care of. And so that's where the majority of entrepreneurs want to get to. They want to choose what they do every single day, but it requires you going through the pain of building the dream team. Once you have the perfect leader in place, that allows you to obviously do that. And finally, it allows you to be able to create the business and the lifestyle that you've always wanted, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you're not, wanting to create a job for yourself. You don't want to be a glorified sales rep forever. You have the desire to build a specific type of business that has some type of impact. And have a specific type of lifestyle, and it takes you being down for the get down. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so let's talk about topic number one, how to map out your sales leadership organizational chart and bring clarity to your career opportunity. So again, that's what we're going to do here. We want to understand what is the organization I want to build, what kind of revenue goals am I trying to get to? Based on that, what leadership structure do I need, and what kind of opportunities does that open up? Because hypothetically, if there's 1, 2, 3, 4 plus opportunities from a leadership standpoint to accomplish your goals, we need to make sure that we're communicating those things in the recruiting process, which we'll dive more into in a little bit. So understand the math and create the plan. That's kind of step one in terms of creating your leadership org chart. So I'm going to list out some things. And again, there's a lot here. So that's why you want to be taking notes and everything. I'm going to go through some questions, and then I'm going to go through an example of answering these questions to ideally illustrate what we're trying to do in terms of creating this org chart. So the first question is going to be, what is your current sales revenue? Okay, so what is your current sales revenue? Next question, what is your revenue goals for the business? Next question, what is the difference in revenue to hit our goal? So hypothetically, if our revenue today is 1 million and we want to get to 10 million, the difference is obviously 9 million. So what's the difference in revenue to hit our goal? Next question, what does the average sales rep produce in revenue monthly or annually, right? So let's think annually. So hypothetically, your rep quota is 300K, 500K, a million plus. I don't know what it is for you. Depends on, how high ticket your products and services are, how low ticket they are, kind of your expectations, but every industry and opportunity is a little bit different. But what does the average sales rep produce annually in revenue? You want to have the bare minimum quota so you can kind of assume how large the team is going to be. Again, all this stuff will come full circle here in a couple minutes. How many reps will we need to hit our goals? So as an example, if I'm at 1 million and I want to get to 10 million, the difference is 9 million. Well, if our rep quota is $1 million, well, 1 million divided by 9 million, which is the difference, that's 9 reps that I need, right? So that's why we want to understand the revenue per rep, and we want to understand how many reps that we need to get to that hypothetical goal. But next question, what kind of leadership structure is going to be needed to support this team of, in that example, 9 reps, and how will we communicate these opportunities both in our recruiting and our management process, which is kind of the last step, because just because you know it doesn't mean others are going to know it, and you need to communicate these things. So let's go through one full example to better illustrate the point, because I know we're going kind of quick. So here's an example of answering those specific questions. So current revenue goal. What is your current revenue goal? I'm just going to say hypothetically it's 500,000. Okay. Goal revenue, right? Where do you want to go? We're going to go, for the sake of this example, we're going to call it $5 million. Okay. Now, if you're doing hypothetically 500K in revenue, most likely your big next goal is $1 million, max 2 million. And the goal can't be too small. Okay. This is an important note. If the goal is too small, then there's not going to be enough leadership opportunities within this hypothetical org chart that you're going to create to be exciting from a recruiting and retention or management perspective, okay? Because you need to have big enough goals to get people excited about your program. So if you're just looking to go to 500K to $1 million, or $1 million to 2, or even 2 to 5, really there's not too much opportunity for growth within that, which means there's not a lot of advancement opportunities or leadership opportunities within that growth that you're going to accomplish. So most likely, as an entrepreneur, you have a general goal and you want to consider that. So as an example, if you're doing $2 million today, most likely you want to get to 5 million. If you're doing 5 or 6 million today, most likely you want to get to 10 million. You want to get to that 8-figure mark. So you just want to think about, okay, is my next big goal that I really want to accomplish, is it exciting from a growth perspective? If it's not, you want to step it up a little bit. And so you do from there is you go, okay, hypothetically, if I hit my actual goal today, what would my next goal be? So as an example, if I'm doing $6 million in revenue today, most likely the actual goal is to get to 10 million, which is 8 figures. Well, you want to think about, okay, if I were to hit 10, what would I actually want to do from there? It would be probably 20 at a minimum 15. So you probably want to go to that next level so that when you create this leadership org chart, there's a lot of growth opportunity that exists within it, because you want those things to be clear, objective opportunities within your business. And then from there, it's laying the path to advance into those, which will come full circle by the end of this training. But that's why the goal is kind of big here, right? So 500K, again, this is all hypothetical revenue today. The goal revenue is 5 million, so 500K to 5 million. The next question is, what is the difference in revenue between what we're doing today and what the goals are, right? So if I'm at 500K and I want to go to 5 million, what's the difference? It's 4.5 million bucks. So I have to go from 500K and increase by tenfold, right, to get to my $5 million goal. Next question was, well, what does the average rep produce annually in revenue? What's kind of our bare minimum quota? And I know for a lot of you, you don't have a quota. So just think through the average Joe, the average Jane, and if they were to show full time and produce and do the bare minimums, they're not a top 10%er, but they were decent and they just showed up and did the work. What do you consider, expect them to produce annually, kind of the bare minimum mark? And you can go based off those conservative numbers for now. So in this example, we called it 500K. So the revenue is 500K. And again, this is all hypothetical. 500K may be too much for you. We have clients that have quotas at 1.2, 1.5 million bucks in revenue. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. But again, we're just, this is all for illustration. But in this hypothetical example, we're going to call the average rep revenue, bare minimum expectations based on my growth plan is going to be 500K. And then we go, okay, well, if each rep is doing 500K, and we have the difference of 4.5 million bucks in revenue to grow, well, what's 500K divided by 4.5 million? Well, that's 9. And that 9 number is the amount of reps that we need actually producing quota. Now, that doesn't mean we only need to hire 9 reps. We may need to hire 18, 36, 40, 50 reps. It depends on your onboarding and your retention and these kind of things, which is a different training. We help commission-based sales opportunities. So typically at a bare minimum, you need to recruit 3 to get 1, and sometimes you need to recruit 5 to get 1, and everybody's a little bit different. But my point is whatever that number is, the amount of reps that you need to hit your goal based on the bare minimum average quota, it's not going to be just hire that number, right? Which we'll do in another training again. And then from there, now that you understand how many reps that you're going to need to get to your growth goals, right? 500K to 5 million bucks, 4.5 million. I need 9 reps times 500K, that's 4.5. Right now that you understand how large the team is going to be, you want to think through, okay, based on how large the team is, how many leaders am I going to need? Now, in this case, I need 9 reps, and let's just call it 10 to make it easy. And for most of us, we're going to want 1 rep for every 5 leaders at the most, maybe 10 reps, but that depends on certain factors. If you have no idea what that ratio should look like, just call it 1 leader for every 5 reps, and that'll kind of make it simple for now. So in this example where I need 9 reps, we'll just kind of round it up to 10. How many leaders am I going to need, right? I'm going to need 2 leaders to support this team of 10. And I don't have those leaders, but what this allows me to do is understand what I need to accomplish from a growth standpoint, right? I need the team to roughly 10, and I need to advance a couple into leadership. This helps me understand what we need to accomplish, and therefore I can communicate it in the recruiting process. Now, when you're building a commission-based sales team, one of the best ways to persuade people into your opportunity is to help them understand that there's objective growth opportunity within your business. Okay, so you have your sales opportunity, and that's maybe great. I don't know, but maybe it is. And that is good enough for a lot of people, but it's not going to be good enough for somebody to stick their 5, 10, 15 years with you. And so you need to have growth opportunity for the people that are constantly looking to grow and or desire that, and or are just the type of people that'll hustle it out, right? You want to reward hustlers with potentially other opportunities. And so what you'll do with this information, now that you know you need hypothetically 2 leaders and you're building the sales team to 10, is in your recruiting process, you're you're going to help them understand, hey, this is exactly where we're going. We're looking to scale up to $5 million. Here's the team that we need to build. And one of the really cool things that exists within our growth plan, or for just the people that are putting in the work, because you want to reward those people as well. Sometimes the workers just want to be like in the sales position long term, but there's a lot of people that'll get bored and they're just simply looking for other opportunities. And you need to entertain them by advancing them into other opportunities if they meet the qualifications that we'll talk about for hypothetically leadership here in a few minutes. But you're going to do the math equation. What's the revenue? What's the revenue goal? What's the difference in revenue? What do reps produce annually? What's the bare minimum quota? Based on what the bare minimum quota is and the revenue goals that we need to accomplish, how many reps do we need? Based on how many reps that we're going to need to scale up within the sales team to hit the goal, how many leaders are we going to need? And then now that I know this information, I know my leadership org chart, and I can communicate that in the recruiting process, get people more excited about our opportunity, which means I'm getting more people to say yes to working with us. And mind you, more quality people, because the quality people want more in their future. Okay, so you're not only communicating this in the recruiting process, but you're going to constantly communicate this hypothetically monthly in your management process, because you need to help people remember that we are a growing company and there's advancement opportunities coming up as we scale the team to 10 or whatever it is. So let's actually talk about proven outside sales leadership and what it's like to hire that type of person, kind of the benefits and the challenges. Well, the benefits are pretty obvious, right? As if, you hire the perfect person, they come in and succeed at the job and can independently grow the sales team without you. Obviously, that's a huge benefit. Now, the point that I kind of want to make when we talk about this topic is that is really, really, really difficult. And it's probably not the best strategy, especially if you're a small business, to depend on to get the right leader in place. And although with that said, I'm going to talk about a couple things that you want to make sure in the hiring process that you put in place if you hire outside sales leadership. So if that's your only option that you want to roll with, you got to make sure that you implement these basic things, okay? But hiring proven outside sales leadership, first thing to note that it costs a ton of money to hire great leaders, okay? So you typically have to pay for good talent. I've worked with a ton of large companies, like literally as an employee before, as their director of recruiting, director of sales, companies that do 50, 100 million plus. These are the companies that can pay for the salaries, pay sign-on bonuses, drop 50, 100K for guys that maybe have a few reps with them, and these kind of things. Things that most small businesses like our clients are not willing to do because they don't have the funds. I've worked with the large companies that do that, and even in those cases, sometimes 80% of the time it doesn't work. And so you got to be really mindful that if your goal right now is to hire outside sales leadership, well, you're going to have to invest into that, at least in a decent salary of maybe 50 to 100K to get a decent hire. But even in those cases, if you get somebody, decent on paper, it's very likely that you're going to have to hire at least 2, but maybe up to 3 or 4 people through that process to actually get the right leader ramped up, seeing success, and accomplishing the role in the way that you want them to accomplish the role. So 80% of the time it doesn't work, which means you've wasted a lot of time and a lot of money. Although we're talking about hiring outside sales leadership right now, what we like to do is we like to take a proven rep and advance them in a systematic way into the leadership position, which again is topic 3. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But again, it's important for you to know that if you want a good outside sales leader, you can only be so objective in the hiring process. Good is going to have to be paid for with most likely a salary, unless you're a really large company, you have a large brand, and you just organically attract leaders to your business because they know you have the best culture, the best compensation plan, the best brand, the best development programs internally. And not to be offensive, but I know that's not the majority of you. The majority of you are like us, a small business, and you need to be a little bit strategic in your approach to finding the right leader. And if 80% of the time it fails when you hire outside sales leadership, it may not be the best process for you. And another important note too is that even in the 20% of the cases where you maybe get lucky, okay, let's say that you're a small business, you can pay for the 50K salary or something like that, 100K salary, and you can attract a decent leader, and you do that a few times, and finally one of them sticks and actually can succeed at the position, which means they know how to sell what you sell, which means they'll be able to coach reps, they know how to run your recruiting process, your interviewing process, your onboarding process, your training, your management process. Let's say they can succeed at all that. Well, sometimes you don't even want to work with them because they may not perfectly align with the person that you want to work with. So a couple questions to ask yourself: even if you get lucky and you find maybe somebody in that 20% bucket that can do the role, what if they don't align with your mission, vision, values, right? So what if they're not totally bought into your culture? That's not a good thing. What if they don't love what you sell? What if they don't love the industry or the product and service that you sell to the marketplace? That is not a good thing in terms of having the right long-term leader. What if they can't sell what you offer well at a really high level, right? You want your sales manager, your sales leader, at least to be in the top 20% of people within your industry, because if they can't do that, then they're not going to be able to coach the other reps around them. Ideally, they have the management qualities, but they're also a top 10%er. So they know how to throw down, they know how to sell, because if they can't really coach reps on the team to do better than the rep is doing right now, then that's not going to be really good from a leadership perspective, okay? They're not going to get a ton of respect from the people below them. And also, let's say that none of these things exist and they actually align with your mission, vision, values, they sell what you sell well, and they love your product and service. Well, what if hypothetically you don't even like them as people? Like you actually hate working with the person? That would be a bad thing, okay? So these are all things that can exist. You cannot like them. They could potentially not love what you offer to the marketplace, which is not a good thing. They may not be able to sell what you sell well at like a top 10% level. They may not be bought into your mission, vision, and values, but day to day, they may be like succeeding at the position, which means, hey, revenue's decent and maybe even growing. They can manage the recruiting, onboarding, training, management process, all that stuff. But if they don't hit these other things, then it's really not the right long-term recruit. And if you go through the process that we're going to talk through, which is advancing a rep into the leadership position, it's the for sure process to get the perfect leader that doesn't have any of these issues, although at face value, it can seem maybe like the harder strategy for a lot of small businesses because of the time investment into building the sales team. Now, best chances of being in that 20% in terms of hiring outside sales leaders. So let's say, like, I don't care what Ryan says about advancing reps into leaders. I want to hire outside sales leadership. I'll drop maybe a decent salary of 50K, maybe up to 100K. I'll drop a decent salary of 50K, maybe up to 100K, and I'm down to invest into that. And because of that, you may be able to attract a solid leader. Let's say that you're going to do that. Well, even in that case, regardless of the compensation plan, you want to be mindful of protecting your capital and ideally, hiring most likely the right person. And so these are some screeners if you're hiring outside sales leadership that can protect your capital. And by that, I mean hire the right person, which means they're going to be able to succeed at the job and you're not burning capital by having to let them go and hire another person, if that makes sense. So here's a few things that'll protect you from a financial perspective, okay? First thing is if a leader that you're hiring outside of the company can bring 1 to 2 reps with them that are already producers, that shows that person has influence. That's a big sign that that person is probably a decent leader. So if you're hiring somebody into a position, you need to see if they'll be able to attract and organically bring 1 to 2 reps with them to add to your commission-based sales organization. That's a good sign that they're a good leader. The second thing is you're going to want to get 1 to 2 employer references from the past that align with the responsibilities that they're going to have at your organization. So as an example, if you want for them to sell for the first 3 months so they can understand your sales process, and then from there, recruit, onboard, manage, and coach sales reps, and those are all things that are important to you, well, you're going to want to get 1 to 2 employer references that allow you to verify that they're actually already good at those things. Because if you're investing into a salary, which again, we don't recommend, you want to just protect that money as much as possible. So you need to get the employer references and really not just be going based off what people say, because people will tell you one thing and they're totally other way. And so you don't want to waste your time or your money. You want to protect those things as good as possible. By the way, if you do these things, you're much more likely hiring outside sales leadership to only need 1 to max 2 hires. If you don't do all of these, then you're probably going to need to hire maybe 3, 4 outside sales leaders. At least those are the averages as we see them. Also, if you hire an outside sales leader, on top of them bringing like 1 to 2 recruits with them, on top of you getting 1 to 2 employer references, it's going to be good for them to start in sales for the first like at least 30, but ideally 90 days, and just work through the sales process and show that they know how to throw down and produce. Because even if they were in your industry before, which is going to be really hard to get somebody that was in your industry already, proven experience around selling, management, recruiting, training, all those things, that's going to be really difficult. But even if that is the case, that's a great thing, but they still need to learn your products and services, how you sell, what your sales process is. And you want to make sure that the foundation is set for them training future reps and coaching future reps to do well. And if they don't know your sales process, if they don't know how to throw down what you sell, then that area of supporting the reps is not going to be there, which is a really negative thing for the people that they'll be recruiting later. So if they can start in sales for the at least 30, 60, 90 days, you can make it performance-based or timeline-based. It's like, hey, once you throw down 8 in a month, that shows that you know how to sell what we sell at a top 20% level, and then you can back out of the sales position and focus mostly on management. Whatever that is for you, whether it's timeline-based or production-based, I'd probably come up with some solid numbers that are objective and set expectations at the beginning of hiring this outside sales leader candidate so that they're willing and understand that they need to start in sales. Now, if they don't have enough humility to start there, that's a bad sign. I wouldn't hire that person, just as a side note. And then last thing that you want to do to ensure that you're most likely hiring the right outside sales leader is you're going to want to implement an LEA, is what we call it, which is a leadership expectation agreement, which just aligns with all their bare minimum responsibilities that they need to do day to day, week to week, month to month, along with their revenue benchmarks, their revenue quota for the team, all the bare minimum things that they need to do in terms of their job description. The leadership expectation agreement is them understanding everything that exists there, and they're pretty much saying, okay, I get all of these 8 things or 9 things or 5 things or 12 things, and yes, owner, you can hold me accountable to these responsibilities as a leader. They'll sign that leadership expectation agreement, and now we've set expectations so we can hold them accountable. They're coming in and they're going to sell for the first 30, 60, 90 days. They've also brought 1 to 2 reps with them to come into the organization on top of you getting 1 to 2 employer references. And now you have a really good case that most likely this is a good hire. Now, with that said, it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. And it doesn't mean they're going to work out perfectly. But assuming you were focusing for that 20% top person that most likely could succeed at the role, those are the barriers that I would put in place to ensure that you hire the right person. So that's topic 2 for the training. Let's transition into topic 3, which is the systematic approach to transitioning sales reps into sales leadership. And this is the big thing that we like to focus on because it's the most capital, least capital intensive, and it aligns with hiring the right person for the role, okay? And you're systematically allowing somebody to prove themselves in every area before they get the big boy or the big girl sales management position. So here's some of the benefits of advancing sales reps into sales leadership. So one of the really cool things about transitioning reps into sales leadership is before you actually start the transition process, you know a handful of things. And so you know that they're a top 10 to 20% sales producer, which means they're going to be able to coach reps in the future, right? If you hire me as a rep and you have a systematic process to advance into sales leadership, which is the process we're going to go through over the next 5 to 10 minutes, and I come in and I show up and I produce consistently over 90 days as an example, you know confidently that I can show up and produce and throw down, assuming my production is at a top 10 to 20% level. So because that being the foundation, you know that I'm going to be able to coach reps, and then I know how to show up and hustle, which is what the role is that they're going to be managing later, right? So one of the benefits of advancing reps into leadership is you can show or you can prove that they're going to be a 10 to 20% producer because they have to actually see success in the sales position. Another thing is you get to understand that they're bought into your mission, vision, and values, and there's alignment there, right? So if in the first 90 days, one of the requirements before going through this advancement process is me showing up, being excited about the mission, vision, values, and all these other things I'll talk about on top of producing, well, that's obviously going to protect your company and ensure that you're advancing the right person. If I'm excited about the day-to-day mission, your long-term vision, and I align with your values, and you've seen that for 90 days, most likely I'm going to be a good person to advance. Another thing that you get to see before you transition reps is you get to see how they actually serve others on the team. So the best leaders are servant leaders. And so you'll naturally see for this potential leadership candidate that you're going to advance from the sales team is that they're showing up and producing. They're excited about the mission, vision, values. And I know a lot of you don't have those things in place, but in general, excited about your culture, excited about your opportunity. And you get to see how they interact with others on the team. Are they building relationships? Are they organically bringing value to others on the sales team without having the title or the financial benefit of doing so? Is that just their natural person? If that's the case and they're naturally serving others on the team, well, that's a big sign. One of the big things companies get caught up with is they're like, man, I need a leader. Who's going to be the leader? I'm just going to take the best sales rep and advance them into that position. And a lot of the top salespeople, they're actually kind of want to be in their own bubbles, and they maybe like the idea of management and getting overrides, but when they actually experience it and they're dealing with people every single day, they end up hating it, and then the team blows up. And so you need to make sure whoever this roughly top person or one of the top sales people transitioning into your leadership opportunity, you need to ensure that they organically like the relationship aspect and serving people, which you'll be able to organically see if you set expectations that this is what we want to see before we advance somebody, and you'll organically see it if that's who they are. And then obviously if they've consistently showed up and produced at a top 10 to 20% level over and over again, you know that they can be consistent, that they can hustle, And then on top of that, if they have a good attitude, these are kind of like, a big kind of group of things that, hey, this is a good sign that this is a person to advance. So let's kind of move on and talk about the 4-step process to actually transition reps. So everything that I just went over is kind of step 1, which is top 10 to 20% producer for 3 months. And then the other details that we just went over, they're a servant without the leadership and financial benefit. They're excited about the mission, vision, values. They love the product and service. They have a good attitude. They're showing up. They're hustling. All of those things are the foundation of step 1 before you go, okay, I've seen how you are consistently over a 90-day period, and now you qualify to advance into step 2. So step 2 is all about taking on additional responsibility outside of the sales position, right? So they've proven themselves over a 90-day period, and you want to kind of give them something basic that maybe takes 5 hours of their week, right? Because they're not necessarily going to get the title benefit here. Maybe you provide them like a financial benefit, something small, a few $100 a week or something like that. But they're going to delegate 5 hours a week on average to something that's really impactful to both you and the sales team, right? If I'm a rep and then I start to transition through this process and I'm in step 2, and then I take off 5 hours from your time investment weekly into the sales team as an owner, and you're able to think about other things within the business, that's a huge value add to you because your time is extremely valuable. Now it's like, okay, well, if they're in step 2, what should those 5 hours be dedicated towards? Typically, it's not going to be one-on-one meetings with reps because they're just barely kind of, participating in any type of leadership responsibilities. It's not going to be sales team meetings yet. That's kind of pushing it too much. It's typically going to be something that they for sure can do, but that brings a lot of value to you and the rep. And what we like to do best here in step 2 is start to delegate pitch recordings to the rep. So I'm a rep, I produce and show up in all the ways that we just talked about for 90 days. And now you would say, okay, you qualify to transition into leadership, which is one of the things that you wanted to do at the beginning of the hiring process. I'm going to start having you do pitch recordings, pitch reviews. Now, for a lot of you, you're not going to be doing this stuff already, but if you're an outside sales force, if you're an inside sales force, there's technology that allows you to record pitches in the field, whether you're setting appointments or closing or doing both within your sales model. And ideally, one of the things that you're doing in your management process, which is a time investment, and most of you are not doing this, I know that because we help tons of small businesses, is ideally you're understanding what reps are saying in the field or on the phones, you're listening to that and providing feedback and coaching them through that, 1 to 3 things that they're doing well, 1 to 3 areas where they need to improve, and then you're providing that feedback for them, okay? That's one of the ways that you coach reps in the onboarding and the long-term management process. Well, that process is a big time investment, and it's kind of a pain in the butt for maybe the owner who's doing this stuff at the beginning, but the rep is going to be able to easily do that because they know the sales process. They've gotten call reviews or pitch reviews themselves in their first 90 days, so they kind of get a grasp of the process, and that's an easy thing that you can delegate to them. And really, it's kind of their first test. Hey, can you do 1 or 2 of these a day, an hour a day, 5 hours a week, and take that off my plate for hypothetically new hires or the whole sales team or whoever? It depends on how big your sales team is, what you're doing from a hiring perspective. Can you take this off my plate and succeed and consistently produce in this pitch recording kind of feedback process? And once all that stuff is done in step 2, which means they kind of handled the coaching calls and the feedback correctly, consistently, it's brought you a lot of value, you're saving time, it's bringing the reps the same value of you doing it or maybe even better. Then it's time to transition them into step 3, which is reps transition into the co-leadership role or the team leader role or the sales team leader role, whatever title that you want to use, the co-management position. Step 3 is now they're technically a co-leader. This is where they're having more responsibilities, they're building trust with the team, and they're perfecting systems with you. So typically they're going to get an income opportunity here. You're going to increase maybe their base. It's not going to get too crazy. That number, I'm not going to throw out random numbers because that could be totally dependent on your situation, but there's typically going to be a financial benefit here, a title benefit here. They're taking on more responsibilities outside of the 5 hours. Maybe that picks up to 10 to 15 hours. Some of this is nuanced because it depends on kind of what revenue you need from them and their personal production to maintain you paying the bills and growing the company and all those things. So there are some details that need to be discussed around this topic, but they're transitioning in the co-leadership position, more responsibilities, they're building trust with the team. And that's a really big one, by the way, in step 3 is building trust with the team. up to this point, you've been the leader and the team trusts you, and now you're going to place this other person, in a leadership position. You can't just throw them into the, the wolves kind of thing and make them the full-time sales manager right away and then tell the sales team, okay, this is your guy. The sales team, they trust you. They want you to be their leader. And so it needs to be a slow transition, a delicate kind of process to ensure that when the full transition happens in step 4, the sales team is okay with it because they trust and they like the person, whoever that may be. But step 3, they're technically the co-leader, more responsibilities, building trust with the team. Maybe they're doing some sales team meetings with you. They're participating in one-on-one meetings with you and or helping relieve some of that off your plate. And they're slowly just getting acclimated into the team. Maybe they're helping with new hire onboarding and those kind of things. Whatever is kind of most valuable to both you and the company, and bringing that time investment up to 10, 15, max 20 hours is kind of what they'll be doing weekly to take on this co-leadership or sales team leader position. That's step 3. And after they've done that consistently, hypothetically for 30 days, you can kind of pick the timeline. Typically small business owners, they're looking to go quickly. So they're typically trying to collapse this timeline as much as possible. Usually you want to let them kind of do this over 30 days, then you transition them into the full leadership position, right? Step 3, it can't be too quick. 30 to 60 days is ideal because they're building that trust with the team. You're introducing them. Hey, John, Sally, Ryan, whoever, they've proved themselves. They've been providing a lot of value to you guys in terms of your pitch feedback. So now they're going to start participating and doing some of the sales team meetings weekly, some of your one-on-ones. I trust them. They've proven themselves, and I want you to give them respect through this process. I'm still going to be involved over the next couple months, but the ideal situation is, he's able to execute in about 30 to 60 days. He transitions fully into the sales leadership position, so I can step back and focus on other things so we can work towards our vision of A, B, and C in the future, right? We need to fill this position, as we all know, and how that's been planned. And so then they execute for 30 to 60 days, and then you transition them into the full sales management position where they're probably not selling too much and they're going all in on pitch feedbacks, all in on sales team meetings, all in on one-on-one meetings, rep coaching, and now they're running the team, okay? And so that's kind of the 4-step process. Now, with that said, it's about a 6-month process. So a bare minimum 3 months. If it's happening before 3 months, you're doing it way too quickly. It should be happening in about 6 months. So you hire me, and then in 5-ish months from now, right, 3 months selling and proving myself, 1 month doing the call pitch recordings, 1 to 2 months doing kind of the co-leadership positions. That's 5 to 6 months. At that time, from the date that I hired the right person, they're actually the full-time leader, okay? Now what this does, it allows you to put the perfect person in, again, which is the point of this training. It's the slow process. It seems like the painful process, but it's the right process to ensure that you put the right person in place. And all throughout this process, you're perfecting your systems, you're perfecting the way that your sales process is, your recruiting process is, your new hire training process is, the way that you onboard reps, the way that you do your sales team meetings, your one-on-one meetings. So by the time that it actually comes where you're delegating everything to this full-time leader, all the processes are perfectly in place and they understand what that is, and it's just on them to kind of run it, and then you manage them from there according to their LEA, their leadership expectation agreement. Now that's the 4-step process. Again, roughly 6 months, but absolutely worth it. You get all the benefits that we talked about at the beginning. Last 4th topic of the training is just real quick, 3 core aspects of retaining sales leadership for the long term. Obviously, when we get this person into the position, we want to retain them. Very, very important. In a commission-based sales opportunity, the retention game never stops, right? If they're performance-based, they have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, or whatever it is, we need to be constantly leading them, coaching them, managing them, motivating them, inspiring them to continue to do well so they're happy with their organization. And so the same kind of exists with a sales leader, especially in a performance-based compensation plan type of sales leader. The retention game doesn't stop, both with the sales reps and the sales leader. So don't assume just because you got the leader in place that it's going to be easy street from there and you get to step back completely and do nothing with the sales leader. No, you need to continue to support them and lead them, but you're focused on one person versus 5 to 10 people or whatever the sales team size is by the time you delegate those responsibilities to this person. And so there's a few things that you want to be thinking about in terms of retaining your leader. First thing is clarity around your mission, vision, values, which we'll dive into a little bit more here in a second. Next thing is a top tier compensation compensation plan. From my perspective, if I have a leader in place and they transition into that position and they're making at least 25, but ideally 50 to 100% more than any previous opportunity that they've had. And that can happen in a commission-based environment, by the way, right? And the typical organization, which is not the type of company that we serve, it's high salary, low commission. We typically do low salary, high commission, which means the sales leadership position is getting a lot of their comp plan based on the revenue and the growth of the sales team. But top tier compensation plan that allows them to make at least 25, but ideally 50 to 100% more than any previous opportunity that they've had historically. And then on top of that, the third thing is a top tier day-to-day job experience, right? So you need to be clear around your mission, vision, values, which I'll just say clarity around who you are as an organization, your culture. You want to have a top tier compensation plan so this leader can make a ton of money because they'll obviously like that. And then you want to make sure that they have a top tier day-to-day job experience. If you have a great culture, if they're making great money, if they have a good day-to-day job experience, then it's really likely that they're not going to go anywhere. So to dive into those a little bit more, your mission is what you're working towards every single day, your day-to-day, right? What everybody's excited about when they come to work. So at SRU, Sales Recruiting University, it's to connect great people with great companies. All of our team members, our sales team, recruiting operations, our leadership, that's what we're all about day-to-day. That's what we're trying to accomplish for the marketplace, is to connect great people with great companies. So you need to have clarity around your vision, your mission. The second thing is your vision is kind of like the long-term 5-year to 10-year goals, your aspirations as a business, what it is that you truly want to accomplish as an organization in the marketplace. And your values are who you are as people with both your clients and your internal team members. So your mission, what you're accomplishing every single day, your vision, what you're accomplishing long-term, your values, who you are as people. This needs to be really clear and exciting for the leader, especially the long-term vision piece, because they're going to see themselves in the long-term vision accomplishing whatever it is. And so you need to align their long-term vision with the company's long-term vision to help with the retention side, which is the topic we're talking about now. In terms of compensation, which was that second topic, most likely you're going to have a base, you're going to have overrides. Overrides can be paid monthly, at the latest quarterly, right? Kind of what the sales team is doing, week to week or month to month. That override, whatever that is for you, needs to be paid to the manager monthly or quarterly. It needs to be done monthly if the compensation in the base is not high enough, because you want their opportunity monthly from an income standpoint to be solid. And then they're going to probably have quarterly and annual bonuses. These numbers are going to be radically different in between industries and opportunities, and even companies within the same industries based on budget and profitability and these kind of things. And then for some of you small businesses, one of the great retention tools that you can implement, which I won't dive into much right now because it can be a sensitive topic, is the opportunity for equity and or shares and or profit sharing within your opportunity, right? From my perspective, if I get the right leader, I want to do everything I can to retain that person long-term, because they're making my life easier. They're the right person to work with, and they're growing revenue, even if they're, got some additional type of compensation benefit that ties them to the company, like equity, shares, or profitability, and or all of the above. Who cares if I'm accomplishing my goals as a business owner? And then that third thing in terms of retention is job experience, right? You need to love on this leader, right? You want to treat them well. You want to be the servant leader. You want to serve them, right? That's what you're there to do as a business owner. You want to help them towards their goals. You want to cast vision. You want to invest those times into your one-on-ones weekly with them, building the relationship, coaching them, helping them to be better leaders. And then you want to invest into things outside of what you do at the company to personally develop their leadership and their sales abilities, which will impact their job. People love to learn and grow. And so those are all good things in terms of job experience. Showing them love, being the servant leader, helping them towards their goals. They have goals too, just like their reps do. By the way, in that LEA, that leadership expectation agreement, that's where you get the goals, the 3-month, the 1-year, the 5-year goals. And you want to kind of reverse engineer what it's going to look like for them to accomplish those goals and lead them through those things. That's part of the job experience. Cast vision, where they're involved in that vision. That's a constant process, and follow all that communication up into one-on-ones and personal development. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the training today. The 4 topics, again, were creating your future leadership structure, the realities of hiring outside sales leadership, the for sure way to hire the right leader, which was that 4-step process to advance a rep into leadership. And then the last topic we just talked about really briefly was how to retain your leader long term. So if you got value, drop a comment, like, subscribe. And if you want us to recruit for you and help you accomplish these kind of things, you can go to salesrecruitinguniversity.com, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.